Yeah, so I have been all my career, first in the United Nations as an expert of technology for 16 years, dealing with illicit trade issues, how we can counter and neutralize basically illicit trade. Then I didn't succeed in the UN, so I created a company around that, and I listed the company on the NASDAQ. And I am, after 30 years, still doing the same thing. What inspired me on PMI is that in my career, trying to focus on that, I have seen a lot of NGOs, a lot of UN bodies, and trying to do it in a very amateurish way without the resources to do it. And suddenly I found a multinational that is serious about it, that this vocation is really to reinvent themselves, to change their business model, to improve their technology, to basically disrupt. And with the power of a multinational, you don't have many. I mean, normally multinationals, when they are being threatened, they change the name and they become a social media with a different name, but probably it's still the same. They are still doing the same legacy issue. So I think this is the reason why I really look into PMI as a thought leader. I think PMI and PMI Impact and this amazing group of talent, because that's what we have here, you know, a very complementary set of talents that if they are put it together, we can really, you know, basically destroy what I believe is a legacy issue. I mean, we are going to Mars. Cannot solve illicit trade? I mean, what is the disconnect there? We have the technology, we have the problem. We are in a human-centric society. I mean, I was in the World Economic Forum just a few weeks ago, and everything is about putting the human in the center of gravity. So everything we do for humans has to be in a way to protect humans. And I think PMI Impact has that vocation, and PMI company has the firepower to make it happen. So I think it's a very concrete project. So yeah, absolutely, very good question. I think one thing we need to realize that we are in the fourth industrial revolution right now. So that means that illicit trade is an analog problem. It's not a digital problem. It's a legacy problem. As I said before, it makes absolutely no sense in the current technology revolution to have a $2.2 trillion industry, which is the capitalization of Apple, is still growing exponentially. So if that happens, it's not because technology is not there. It's because some people want to keep the status quo because they are making money. I mean, we all have in this room an anti-illicit trade technology available, all of us, which is our mobile phone. A mobile phone can be used in a very effective way to validate any product. I mean, WISeKey is helping watch manufacturers in Geneva because we have 250 million fake watches, and we produce 25 million watches in Switzerland. We as consumers, we have been empowered, all consumers, to real-time check the identity, check the object, being in a situation where we are participants to the reduction of $2.2 trillion problem. Now, because mobile phones are connected, law enforcement agencies can use very sophisticated tools like artificial intelligence to data mine. I mean, let's say that in this room, we all found, each of us, one illegal product. If that product is provided to cloud technology, you could very well provide custom officials, legal enforcement agencies, the possibility of track and trace not only the product, but also the person that is counterfeiting the product. But as I mentioned before, this is an analog problem. It's not a digital problem. We do have the technology to modify. I think what is interesting on PMI, that not only they are launching the movement towards a world on where illicit trade is not dominant, but they're also putting examples in their own products. They are making their products very difficult to counterfeit. And therefore, I will not be in this panel if PMI will not be adopting the same technology that we are ourselves as a member of PMI Impact requesting the grantees to develop. That will be hypocritical, right? So the fact that PMI, and it's a big organization, and I know how difficult this is to be applied to many big multinationals. So I think we need to use the leadership, the thought leadership, and I really insist on that word. I think PMI and PMI Impact has contributed towards, today, has a thought leadership in what concerns the convergence of technology and illicit trade, and use technology in a practical way, together with legislation and many other inputs, to solve the problem. I think we can be optimistic that in next generation, we're not going to have a $10 trillion illicit trade problem. We might have maybe $100 million, and that's fine, but not 5% of the global GDP.
How much is the problem today? 3 trillions?
No, the economy is $2.3 trillion of products, and they are being counterfeited, and that feeds the mafia. But you know, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. By the year 2030, we're going to have 1 trillion objects connected to the internet. Now we have in this room maybe 300 things connected to the internet. The same event in 10 years' time will have 2,000 things connected to the internet in the same room. So this is going exponential. More you connect to the internet, faster and better and cheaper is the way to verify if the object connecting to the internet is real or not. I think this criteria that we are in a global crisis and therefore we're going to consume more, I mean, it's an excuse. At the end of the day, I don't think even a statistic says that because we're in a crisis, we are going to consume more illicit trade. I think this is a conscious issue. And this education, I mean, if you go to a teenager today and you say, will you invest in illicit Prada bag versus the original? Obviously, it's going to say, look, I don't have the money of the original. I'm going to buy the Prada one, the cheap one. But if you go to the same teenager and you say, look, I'm going to show you actually, and we did that with the schools, private schools in Geneva, University, the UN, saying, okay, we're going to show you where your money goes. We're going to show you how that $20, $30 that you're going to pay for that, this is actually contributing to mafias to do human slavery and human traffic. And this interconnection has been proof. I mean, this is the bank account of these guys. I mean, we are feeding the bank account by allowing the counterfeiting in an easy way. So who is responsible for that? Is that the teenager that follows that process, or is actually the brand? The brand, and this is actually good news now, brands are now, especially with the metaverse, because there's another dimension on illicit trade on the metaverse, brands are realizing that it is actually a brand protection strategy and a brand reinforcement strategy to provide secure methods to their product. And by doing that, they are reinforcing their brand value. And as you know, it's all about branding, right? So it's education needs to be there. I think I am always very positive on the new generation, the millennial and the Generation X and others, because they ask the right questions. You know, they ask you, is that product good for the climate? Is this car polluting? Is this product fake? So this movement needs to, a bit what she said about the Me Too movement, needs to be intensified in order to create the consciousness in the consumer that doing this is actually something they should stop doing now and not tomorrow, because the planet doesn't have.
Hi, thanks first of all. Thank you for this great panel discussion. I have a quick question. So both Navi and Carlos mentioned education and activism as a solution to the problem. So in the time of the digital era, do you think social media will be a threat or a solution to ending illicit trade?
They are both. It's like fire. It can burn your house. It can warm your house. I mean, technology is never good or bad. It's the people behind technology, right? So, public opinion is important. If a teenager again buys something and posts that something saying, I bought a Prada bag, and all their friends know that she doesn't have the money to do that, neither she at that age will have a Prada bag, then she will have the peer pressure required to stop doing that. So that's what you can achieve in social campaigns, is to create the understanding of the problem, that there is a solution to the problem, and by the way, that is technology to solve the problem. Because as Alain say, what these people abuse is of the lack of awareness of the consequences of doing that. Some of them, they are losing their life with medical fake products, or some of them, they are just contributing to, as I mentioned before, to increase the bank account to the bad guys. But the social media movements can do that. The problem with social media is that social media itself has a huge problem to be solved, which is not being solved yet. Identity theft, the fact that you can be anonymous. So that obviously is a fragile infrastructure on where you are putting a very complex problem. The infrastructure will collapse. And that's why I think PMI Impact has a role, not only as a thought leader, but also as a platform. Because if you become a platform, then you can trust the platform and you can consult the platform, and the platform belongs to a trusted network of party, then they can certify that whatever happens in that platform is real. The major challenge for your generation is going to be the difference between truth and lie. The window, the frontier is very thin in our days. I mean, look what is happening with the war in Russia. So the capability of identify where the truth is going to be the challenge. To add also that it is actually the training ground to go into more dangerous illicit trade transactions. They start with cigarettes and they continue. And I think this is a fundamental. I even think I love to change name to things because sometimes names has been used for too long for the wrong reason. I think we are talking about criminal trade. This is not illicit. Illicit is a legal definition between licit and illicit. But this is, if you are using or consuming anything which is counterfeited, you are participating to a criminal organization. You become party of that criminal organization. Maybe only with $20 or $10. But this is what microcredit is. I mean, people are building companies in the NASDAQ, then they collect $20 from each customer. So we are in that thinking, right? We need to remove these people for entering into a criminal organization in criminal trade by just tobacco, which is the entry door, but that normally gets the tendency to get much bigger with higher volume, higher traffic, more money, and obviously more damage.
One final question, and this really takes its start from a comment that we received online from Fatih in Turkey. I'd be interested to hear the perspective of the panel, perhaps starting with you, Luis, on he's throwing forward here this questioner, saying price increases around to do with inflation and exchange rates are making smuggling much more profitable. This is affecting business, economy, and individuals. He says, we need to increase border security and the authorities should have the capacity to destroy illegal products. Those are two suggestions. Do we agree with that? Do we think that that's an incomplete solution?
Well, one of the problems is Pablo Escobar started smuggling cigarettes to Colombia. And then he bought everyone after, the police. So it's the ability to corrupt is so big. That's why private-public association is a non-corrupt relation. So corruption is a private-public, but illegal and criminal. We are trying to achieve similar effort on the legal part. And the money is not just flowing to the borders, so the legal trade is bigger than what's happening in one border. So we need to work on borders. In fact, one of the awards we gave is a company who produced Ray X to check trucks. That was very useful. So we can increase the border control, but have to do more.
Yeah. Suzanne?
I think that destruction of contraband is a good thing, but that doesn't stop the problem at all. It just is like a whack-a-mole. Ultimately, you want to seize, you want to prosecute, you want to disrupt, you want to get rid of the network, but you do have to obviously take the contraband away, but just simply stopping at the border and then destroying the contraband is not enough.
Okay. Final word.
Yeah, just to add on that, and I think the big problem is actually on the internet. Really, this is where we need to destroy the contraband in the internet, and we should put responsibility of e-commerce platform. I think we should tackle the problem where it is first, get it done, and then slowly that will dilute the effect everywhere else.
That's interesting because banks have the obligation to know the client, the customers.
Yeah.
Why countries are not imposing this obligation to this?
Because they don't want, because this reduces, they will have to announce that in the next quarter, they have reduced 30% their revenue because they have stopped selling fake products. And 30% of the revenue will be something like maybe $700 million markup reduction. And then everybody leaves because they are not growing 20%, which is what the market is asking them to grow. That's the reality.
It's a hugely complex picture, isn't it? And we've had a great investigation here of some of the challenges, which are huge and are changing regularly. But I think we've also had a number of notes of optimism here, particularly about the capacity of the next generation to care and to act in ways with social responsibility that can drive change as well as the sorts of projects we're talking about today. So with that, I will thank Alvise, I'll thank the expert council members. Thank you very much. I'll hand back to Effie.
Thank you very much.
So thank you once again to the PMI Expert Council members, to Alvise, to Dominic, and to everyone that tuned in to watch this engaging debate. We are delighted to have been able to listen from the PMI impact experts and hear firsthand about challenges and opportunities in the fight against illegal trade, which is a global issue that is affecting consumers, governments, legitimate businesses, and the society as a whole. We need to keep fostering this dialogue on the strategies that can help us counter the impact of illicit trade around the world. Thank you again, and I wish everyone a great rest of the day.